Chandran Menon, and I was a boarder in SJC from 1958 to 1966. So during my stay there, once while we were waiting for to have our dinner outside, there's a big garden and lots of flowers, and where the sundial and things like that are kept. So while walking around, I was observing the flowers, and at one point I saw a bee get into one of those flowers, and I was curious to know what it was doing, and I closed the flower from the top to prevent the bee from flying out. Unfortunately for me, I got caught doing that by Brother Darcy. He was a ardent fan of nature and all the things which go with it. So he came up to me and told me. He was very furious when he saw what I did. So he told me, "You meet me after your dinner. You meet me in my room." So I was wondering what is going to happen to me. Maybe I am going to be punished. So after dinner, as he ordered rather, I went to his room, and there he took out a huge cane, and he was so furious and red with anger. He just gave me a sound thrashing, which I remember even to this day. And I remembered that you should never trap a bee, because a bee is a very useful insect. And this is something that I wanted to bring to your notice. Okay. I wanted to share this with you.
When Brother Burke asked you to take out your dictionaries, or when Brother Fleming asked you a question in math, Fendi taught me to hide on the desktop so that you're either looking for your dictionary, which didn't actually exist, or you didn't want to be picked on to answer the question.
Ivo Drogue remembers. Brother Burke was our English teacher. He came out with the idea that our class should go to Coimbatore to see 2 English movies, My Fair Lady and The Sound of Music. He had fixed the time of departure as 4:30 a.m. from Coonoor bus stand. We were to go walking up to Metupalayam. Well, it was unnerving, wondering how we would reach Coonoor at that unearthly hour. To cut a long story short, most of us did reach. But Brother had left with a group who had already arrived. A couple of boys were left to gather the stragglers like us and follow the first batch. The route was not along the main road, but a short cut through the forest. Thank the Lord above for not allowing the wild animals to disturb our journey. I think we reached Kalar around 9 a.m. and continued our journey on foot to Metupalayam. The same afternoon we witnessed one movie and the other on the next day, I think. Looking back, I think it was one of the most grave risks a teacher had undertaken for his students, to see these 2 movies and also the principle for granting permission. In those days, we were game for it, and so were our parents. Imagine walking alone on the road from Aravankadu to Coonoor, bus stand at 4 a.m. and having to pass 2 cemeteries. I still wonder how I did it. This is one incident that I will never forget. Afternoon sessions, raiding pairs near the school, and evening sessions. In the orchard on the left side of the road, leading from Gooder Talkies to the Wellington station, was our activity. Any fruit you ate after raiding an orchard was far sweeter than what you bought. KV. You were the cause for me being drenched in sweat on that fateful morning. You asked me to come near your uncle's place at about 3:30 a.m. so we could team up to reach Coonoor. But alas, you failed to turn up, and hence I had to do the trip solo.
Guys, this is Joel Williams, class of 66, and at KV Krishnan's request, I've been asked to recount a situation I went through in Standard 8. I didn't like my time at school. I kind of hated it, being a boarder from Calcutta. Anyway, and I had a mutual hate relationship with Fitzy. And at one stage I'd had enough and I decided to run away, which I did. So I just walked down the hill to Coonoor, went to the station, jumped on a train, and was headed home. No change of clothes, no money, no food, nothing. Anyway, get to Runnymede, and they used to shunt engines there. And being a male interested in things mechanical, I poked my head out the window. And who should spot me was the engine driver, the husband of our Year 7 teacher, Mrs. Dawson. Naturally, he was surprised to see me there and jumped out of his engine and said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going home. I've had enough." And he said, "Where's home?" I said, "Calcutta." He said, "No, you're not. Get out of there." So he dragged me across into his engine, back to Coonoor, took me to Fitzy, and that was it. Unfortunately, there were no benders because Fitzy had tried to expel me for smoking. And my mother had given him the rounds of the kitchen. And he really was he was intimidated by my mother, who was a very powerful woman. So that was it. It wasn't something well known because it all happened within a day. And I didn't make a big deal out of it because I was quite ashamed at my failure. So that's it in a nutshell.
This is KV Krishnan, and I was in SJC Coonoor from 1961 to 1966. I joined in the 6th standard. I was not a boarder, I was a day scholar. I used to come to school from Arvankadu every morning, so I really didn't have much time to spend with this other classmates out of school hours. I was also what you would probably call a nerd. So I wasn't in with all their fun and frolic, apart from raiding pears and peaches during this lunch break in the afternoon. There is one incident that is etched in my mind, and that happened, if I'm not mistaken, in standard 7 or 8. We had a new Hindi teacher, I think Mohan was his name. And we had a prankster called Adrian D'Souza, nicknamed Cockeye, who used to sit in the first desk, and when the teacher came in, he used to say, "Hang your balls in the rack." Now, the Hindi teacher didn't know English very well and didn't know what it meant. And this went on for a couple of days, and I think the teacher got wind of it and probably went back to the staff room and asked him what it meant. Was it a new form of greeting? And when he realized that, he came back and asked who was the one in the class who said that. And there was nobody in the class who would snitch. So he lined up all 30 or 31 of us, and we all got 3 benders because we never gave it away. Talk about class unity. It just goes to show that we were a great bunch. We had fun, and though I must have missed it most of the time. I remember Tops was one of those favorite games those days. Each of us had our favorite top, besides others like Gilli Danda and Seven Tiles. A couple of years ago, I bought my grandchildren a Seven Tiles game, which is now known as Pittu or Lagori. I thought that Tops is non-existent these days till I saw YouTube of a guy doing all kinds of tricks with his top. These days, they talk about PlayStation and Xbox and Nex.
Hi, I am Lakshman. I would like to share some memorable incidents of my days at SJC. Some of you were also part of it, and some are no more. RIP to those who are no more. In the third standard, once I was made to sit in the middle bench next to a girl student, namely Shantini, a Bengali, and it was not to make girlfriend, but for talking in the class. I felt very shy. Miss Enos was the class teacher. Even in St. Joseph's Convent, sister concerned, in the baby class and first standard, there was sleeping class for half an hour daily. We have to lie down our head on the desk and close our eyes. If anyone raises his head, makes noise, or found talking, he would be made to sit in between the girls and his mouth shut with plaster. Now, the boys of KG are fighting to hold the girls' hands. In the Tamil class, the Tamil Munshi, as we call him, used to crack vulgar jokes and call us by nickname while taking attendance. He even used to rag us. N.K. Krishnamurthy, Janardhan, H.M. Devraj are also a part of it. Even Ivadrug was in the Tamil class for some time, I think. By then, half the class would be over, and the remaining half only for studies. In the 7th standard, Sir Sones, the class teacher, during class would get fits when he's in tension or angry. Some guys deliberately used to make loud noise by banging the desk or dropping geometry box. Sir Sones would then get angry and throw chalk piece at us. He would then sit on the chair till he becomes normal. Sometimes he'll get fits. Then he'll be taken to the hospital and the class would be cancelled. In Sir Louis' class, I think the 8th standard, Richard Roberts, a boarder, used to bring Waterbury's compound, Red Label. He would take a sip and pass it on to others. Others would also take a sip, including me, beneath the desk. Once Sir Louis noticed this and, in a loud voice, asked what was going on there. Richard Roberts got up and said that he was having cough, hence he took syrup. But the Waterbury's compound was with another guy at the back bench. Sir Louis asked Richard, "You're having cough and he's having syrup. What is that?" The guy in the back bench stood up and told, "Sir, I am also having cough." Sir Louis got angry and caned both of them. He warned them. He also said he would inquire the matron whether Waterbury's complaint was prescribed for cough. The other guys who took sip of the tonic, that is myself and others, escaped. We cannot forget the black halwa of the black halwa man, the joe bar sticky bar of the elderly couple. My pocket money, that is quarter anna, the round brown coin with a hole in the center. That was affordable only for the black halwa and not the badam halwa. The halwa man was not allowed to sell halwa in the college premises due to hygienic conditions. Once Sir Watson was coming to seize the halwa box from the halwa man, we came to know that and tipped the halwa man, Janardhan, myself, and one more guy. The halwa man went and hid behind a tree with the halwa box. So Watson, after some search, could not find the halwa man. He then left the place. Then the halwa man came out and started his usual business. He gave us some free halwa for helping him, and it was the badami halwa. During lunchtime, all our eyes would be on Derek Paul's orchard. We used to raid the orchard, pluck pears, plums, peaches, and return to class through a shortcut cutting through the fence, covering the woods. Once Sir Watson was waiting inside the woods to catch hold of anyone entering through the shortcut. So while returning from the orchard, we had to enter college premises through the main entrance on the Appleby Road. We were few minutes late to the class. Richard Roberts, Janardhan, myself, and few others. We got caned by Sir Louis. We then came to know that Derek Fowle has already come and complained to Sir Louis regarding plucking of fruits from the orchard by the students. Sir Louis warned us and said in future any complaints we would be taken to the principal. During the deadly contagious disease, the plague, college authorities had instructed all classes to be aware of dead rats. Any dead rats found in the college premises, holiday would be declared for the whole school to avoid any spread of the disease. On one or two occasions, some guys brought dead rats from outside and threw inside the college premises. On one such occasion, it was Ashok Kumar Elikuti, I think. Then the college was declared holiday and we went home, but not before raiding the orchard. We used to have horse fight during lunch hour in the grass flat. N.K. Krishnamurti, Janardhan, Ashok Kumar, myself in one group. Rajsekhar, Chandrasekhar, R.B. Vishwanathan and few others in the opposite group. N.K. Krishnamurti and Janardhan were my jockeys. The fight would start friendly and end up seriously with some of our shirts torn. The seven tiles game in the top flat was interesting. Once our team won the game, but it was treated null and void because there were 8 tiles placed instead of 7. It happened so that one tile broke into 2 pieces while hit with the ball, and our team players placed the tiles without counting. We also used to play police robbers during the lunchtime. B. Krishnamurti, M. Ramchandran, M. Vishu, Janardhanan, H. M. Devaraj, L. Bhagwan, myself and few more. We were not allowed to enter inside the woods. Once the robber could not be caught. By then lunchtime was over and we all went to the classes. Later on we came to know that Sir Watson has caught the robber inside the woods and caned him. Finally, I would like to mention some of the movies watched in the college screened through the projector. The Red Indians, Greeks and the Trojans, The Wooden Horse, Malefus Mystery, Clue of the Twisted Candle, and few other movies, including some silent movies. Gone are the days. Thank you.
Hello, classmates. It's Michael van der Linden over here. It was a very pleasant surprise to catch up with KV and Chaiko just recently, and eventually with all of you. Gopalan and KV have been on to me for a short voice recording of a couple of memorable events that happened to me during my 9 years at SJC. There were many memorable events that happened to me when I was at SJC, but two events have for some reason embedded themselves in my memory. One involves Adrian Rosario, who all of us know as Cockeye, and the other involves Bala and Mr. Watson. So, on to the Cockeye story first. Cockeye and I were on a day trip to Uti, and we hired a couple of bicycles. We were enjoying our ride around Uti in very pleasant weather. There were a couple of ladies walking ahead of us in our direct path. I assumed that Cockeye had seen them, but he was chattering so much that he was not really paying attention. Anyway, long story short, he ran into the lady on the right-hand side from the back. His front wheel went right between her legs. She turned around and took a big swipe at Cockeye, but luckily he ducked. He abandoned his bike and he took off. It was then up to me to retrieve his bike with two very cranky ladies holding the bike hostage. Right. Now, the second event that's still in my memory is a staff versus students soccer game, football match at the top flat at SJC. Bala and I were about 12 or 13 years old at the time, and we were standing next to each other alongside the edge of the field, and just watching the game, enjoying the day. Mr. Watson was the fullback for the staff team. The only time we ever saw him in shorts was when he was playing football. He had legs, honestly, that looked like tree trunks. They were huge, and they must have looked even larger than they were, to a 12 and 13-year-old kids. If he booted the ball, it just went from one end of the field to the other end of the field. Massive kick. But back to the game. The students were attacking, but Mr. Watson attacked them and got the ball off them. The action was right in front of where Bala and I were standing. I thought, at that instant, I'd curry a little bit of favour with Mr. Watson, so I cheered him on. Or I thought I was cheering him on. I screamed, "Kick, sir," meaning for Mr. Watson to kick the ball. However, Watson must have thought that I was invoking the attacking student to give Mr. Watson a really good kicking. So I thought nothing more of it. But after the game, Bala was summoned to Mr. Watson. When I saw Bala afterwards, I asked him what had happened. He said that Watson had slogged him, had given him a few cuts. I asked Bala why this happened, and he did not know. After thinking about it over the years, I believe it was a case of mistaken identity or collateral damage, whichever, after the kicks incident. So after all these years, Bala, my apologies. Well, those are my two stories. I'm looking forward to catching up with all of you in January, not too far. See you all, bye. What a pleasant surprise it was to hear from Kate informing me that KV and Charco were trying to get in touch with me. KV, you are the first person from SJC that I have been in touch with since I left school. I can't believe that nearly 60 years have passed since we left SJC in December of 1966. After I left SJC, I spent 2 more years at school in Perth to round off my schooling and to prepare for university. I was then selected to join the Royal Australian Air Force to do aeronautical engineering and then pilot training. I spent just on 30 years in the Aussie Air Force and loved every minute of it. In that time, I managed to find myself in 3 wars, the first of which was the Vietnam War. You read the article about me and saw the pictures that Kate published on the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald. commemorating the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. That article led you and Chaco to track me down. I must say that my 9 years as a boarder at SJC gave me the skills to manoeuvre myself successfully in any combat environment and survive. I left the Aussie Air Force because BAE Systems, a British corporation, enticed me into their organisation. It was a hard decision to make because I was going to leave a nice and secure government environment and venture out into the cutthroat corporate world of which I knew nothing. But the remuneration convinced me that I should take the leap of faith, and I accepted a position as the General Manager of Military Flight Training. That leap of faith proved to be a canny one because I spent 6 terrific and successful years with BAE Systems before I again was enticed into another corporation, this time Lockheed Martin, an American corporation. I then spent 16 years with Lockheed Martin, again as the General Manager of Military Flight Training. I really loved my time with Lockheed Martin, but eventually decided to retire after well over 50 years in aeronautics. I then became a volunteer at an aircraft museum called Fighter World, located in Newcastle, New South Wales, which is not too far from where I live. My retirement did not last long because once again, in my life, the border Fighter World enticed me into the Fighter World business as the general manager. I then unretired myself, much to the dismay of my family. I still work at Fighter World and informed Tanya, my wife, that I would retire for good when she also retired. I live at Newcastle and have 4 adult children, 3 boys and 1 girl, none of whom joined the military. I am also blessed to have 10 grandchildren, 6 girls and 4 boys. So that's my life in a nutshell, KV. I'm so glad that you reached out to Kate. I have been in touch with her and have thanked her on your behalf. In just a few months, I'll make sure that, like the prodigal son, I'll return and catch up with all you guys. Best wishes to all. I once had a posting to Malaysia some years back when I was still in the Air Force. A popular newspaper at the time in Malaysia was the Straits Times. It used to come up with some outstanding headlines on the front page. I remember this particular one. There was once a female teacher from an international school at Penang who was kidnapped. The Straits Times did not disappoint and came up with this slightly alarming headline on page 1, all in uppercase. Police probe teachers snatch. Happily, the teacher turned up in a couple of days, none the worse for wear after spending an unplanned few days with her visiting boyfriend. Sadly for the stalwart upholders of law and order, there was no snatch to probe. All those clever headlines at the Straits Times made me wonder whether the editor-in-chief of that newspaper was a graduate of SJC, who perhaps attended Brother Burke's English classes. Maybe he was our colleague, Tony Chupeng Hu. I also got to wonder whether the editor-in-chief used his Renan Martin not only to shield his backside from the benders that were liberally dished out at school, or whether he used his Renan Martin to become an expert in innuendo and the double entendre. Michael signing off once again.
Yeah, I think talking about my memories of school, I have one memory which I always remember. I think it was Mr. Burke's class. We were all waiting inside the class, all the students. And since he has not yet arrived, we are all playing, shouting, pulling at each other, chasing each other. And I think it was Shanavas who was, as you know, a very mischievous fellow. He was chasing me around the class and trying to pull my pant down. So to escape from him, I rushed out of the door into the ground. And to my dismay, I saw Brother Burke coming from the principal's room outside. The moment I saw him, he also saw me. He got so angry, he shouted, "Hey, yo!" And I got so scared, I ran back into the class and sat in my chair. The moment he came inside, he pulled my ear and pulled me in front and gave me so many whacks on my back. I can never forget that. Going through all the messages, I recollect all my fond memories of the day in school. Tony, Hugh, and Shanavas had a fight one day, and for what reason I forget. Walking to Kallar, seeing the pictures, our trip to Cochin, Mr. Soames, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Venkatraman, Tamil, Brother Fitzy, Brother Boniface, because of whom I still remember the capitals of most countries, because he would whack us mercilessly even for one small mistake. All of them are really unforgettable characters.
Hello everyone, I am Swaminathan Gopalan. H.M. Devaraj had forwarded a post from an old SJC student, Rusi Kathoke. Rusi had used a quote of Sam Ewing, the baseball player, as a title for his post. When you finally go back to your old hometown, you find it wasn't the old home you missed but your childhood. How true! SJC was not about the school, but that period in our lives when we were entering teenage, and hence the most memorable part of living. For me, no school was ever particularly great. I moved to a different school every few years as my father moved on transfers, so I never developed deep roots in any. However, the Nilgiris made a tremendous impression during the years at St. Joseph's, which was class 7 to 10. And what stands out in the memories of this period is the Nilgiri Railway. I suppose I'm a natural train buff and absorb details about them that others miss. Kunur was the loco shed and it had 12 steam locomotives during those years. They were numbered from 37385 to 37397. I still remember the numbers. 37390 now stands outside Kunur railway station. Every loco did a cycle. Kunur, Ooty, Metropolitan, Ooty, Kunur. There was a pattern to the use, and very often the local number that I expected would come. We walked along the tracks very often, either when the evening train was late or we had stayed back at school for sports. On one of these walks, a question struck: what would happen to a coin if the loco ran over it? Next morning, I brought a 1 paisa coin, and where the rail track turned a corner and I was hidden from view, placed the coin on the track and waited for the train to pass. Just as the loco approached it, a thought struck. What if the coin causes the train to derail? And my stomach twisted, gripped by fear. The loco and train passed over smoothly, however. Then I found the coin. It was an oval disc of metal, thin as a sheet of paper and about 4 times the size of the original coin. There are 3 classmates that I met after leaving school. Ivar Drug is a classmate that I remember for many reasons. Partly he is the one that I have met most often later. Apart from being the leader of the group that raided orchards nearby, he was the one who went in and climbed the pear trees. We were like foxes that follow a lion that goes hunting, waiting for him to throw some pears to us. Just as I am a train buff, Ivor had a head for buses and their registration numbers. In those days, all the buses were private services. NMT was the largest fleet, NBT had 3 buses, MCS ran the Coimbatore and Metropolitan buses. They even had a first class bus that did one trip every day. From the school, the highway on the other side of the valley was clearly visible. A bus would crawl up the slope and Ivor would say, "That's 4792, driver cruise." After my father retired, he built a cottage near the Sims Park. I used to come a few times every year to meet my parents. It is on those trips that I have taken my children on the trains from Konur Uti and Konur Mettupalayam. Later, as a teacher, I brought a group of students in class 7 and we walked along the track from Uti to Konur. But after Lovedale, we just walked cross country. You can't do that anymore. On most of these trips, somewhere or the other, I would cross Ivor. He would have come home on leave from the Air Force visiting his parents. India Nair Force is what he called Indian Air Force. Later, after he retired from the Air Force and joined Hindustan Photo Films, I met him once. From one uniform into another, he remarked. About 10 years ago, I took a little house on rent at Melur Hosatti village. I would come and stay there 10 days in a month. The landlord was a lawyer in Kunur. One day, in conversation, I told him that I had studied at St. Joseph's. Come, he said, and took me to the adjacent petrol pump. And who should be there but Shamim Seth, who was also the lawyer's landlord. In school, Shamim was a natty dresser, shirt always crisply tucked in. Naturally, we would creep up behind him, pull out the tuck shirt and run. It irritated him no end. The lawyer also took me to meet his relative R.B. Vishwanathan, who is no more. R.B. was a pediatrician with his clinic near Crown Bakery. So Ivor, Shamim and Vishwanathan were the three classmates that I have met. K.V. Krishnan describes himself as a nerd, but in fact he was an academic wizard, especially with geometry. Solving riders based on theorems has never been my cup of tea, but he would crack them effortlessly. One teacher I remember was really inspiring was Twist, Mr. Varghese. He was the science teacher in class 7 and 8. He didn't restrict himself to teaching from the textbook. Once, he demonstrated making oxygen. The manganese dioxide had impurities in it and there was a big explosion. Undeterred, the next class he repeated the attempt. I was sitting on the edge of the bench waiting for the explosion, but it didn't happen and Twist collected 6 jars of oxygen. To demonstrate the properties of oxygen, he inserted a glowing splinter in one and it caught fire as if by magic. Next, he lit a magnesium ribbon, turned his face to the wall and dropped it into a jar of oxygen. The ribbon burned with such an intensity that for the next 20 minutes we couldn't see anything else. Twist also organized practicals. He set up 35 experiments for the 35 boys in the class. Every week we did one experiment covering all 35 in a year. Many of these experiments I did later in PU and BSc as well. Twist organized a science exhibition where the highlight was the headless wonder, the head and neck of a boy who seemed to be within a bowl of water. He was a visionary science teacher and left for East Africa. When I compare our childhood with children of present times, I feel we were really blessed. Travel by train, walk, no extra tuition or coaching, no after-school activities organized. It really was a glorious time, at least for those who managed their academic performance. We had no money in our pockets, but we couldn't have wanted anything.
This is Vinayak. Wonderful to meet all of you after a long, long time. I am sure we'll have a good time together when we meet in Kunur. I remember Michael skating across the under-14 playground when it used to become waterlogged after rains. Percy Italia was from Hyderabad. He was 1 year senior to us. That year had a number of Parsis. I remember Rusi Katoke and Soli Patel. The trip to Coimbatore was in class 10. I joined SJC in 9th by the end of May. As such, it could not have been in that year. This was a superb trip. Apart from my fair lady, some of us saw can also naturally, without informing the teachers who were with us. The bakery at Staff College, Wellington, used to offer excellent eclairs, but it seems we will not be privileged to have tea or other goodies at Appleby, unfortunately.
My first day at St. SJC was a flop show. I was admitted to class 4 in 1958. There was a Hindi class in progress, and I was given a sheet of paper to write on. The master called out Khargosh, the first Hindi word I have ever heard in my entire life up to that point of time. I handed in a blank paper, not knowing any Hindi. In the previous school, I had started learning Tamil. Perhaps the humiliation in my subconscious remained latent. I could not study Hindi. The various Hindi munshis got fed up with me and with the ritual of punishing me and a few occasional others. I did manage to mug a few poems and essays which earned me a pass mark. Brother Burke was an avid walker. For his girth, he organized treks from Kuno to Metropolium and proceeded to Coimbatore by train or bus. To watch a movie, I think the movies were Hattari in 1965 and My Fair Lady in 1966. Brother Burke was a stickler for correctness and punctuation. We needed to write out passages or poems without mistakes or any punctuation. But we got around this by preparing a copy with 2 or 3 mistakes and wrote the passage poem while he supervised us from his high chair. An extra smart idiot was doodling on his paper. And Brother Burke was observing this with great interest. When he presented the perfectly written paper, Burke asked how he could possibly doodle and submit a perfect paper. The smart one got 6 of Burke's finest, while KV as team leader got 6 super sizzlers as an added incentive. We had sportsmen Deepak Parakh, Moid Okti were excellent footballers. Deepak Parakh could convert a corner kick directly into the goal, and it was a pleasure to watch the ball arc into the net as it beat the goalkeeper. Ashok Babu was a fast bowler and could be considered Shoaib Akhtar's predecessor. Muthu was a diminutive super spin bowler, and K.C. Talavia created a new high jump record of 5 foot 8 inches, which stood for many years in the inter-school athletic meet. With a change in style of high jumping, the record may have been broken. The grass flat was synonymous for settling fights. The most publicized fight was between David D'Souza, who had newly joined the school in 1962, and another boy whose name I forget. Almost all of the entire school was there to witness the fight. That was scheduled after lunch. It was a wet day, and I tried to get a better view, slipped off the path and fell down the steep embankment and fell heavily on my back. I could not stand up. The fight was forgotten and attention diverted to me. The fight stopped abruptly. My brother carried me to the infirmary, and I was able to stand and walk later that evening. Part of the grass flat was converted to a basketball court, and Brother Boniface played bull in the china shop with the boys. The first flood in Ooty on the 3rd November 1978. A drizzle, deceptive and gentle, started and became a torrential downpour inundated, flooding the lower reaches of Ooty town and claiming many lives. The first, Dr. Satyabama, in her house in Greenfields. Several others lost their lives, and many bodies were recovered in the next few days after the flood. On the 4th of November at about 8 p.m., I was out cleaning a drain that had become choked. A heavy bolt of lightning, and in the few seconds, the resultant thunderclap. I had rushed inside, heard a sudden noise, while the air in the room turned chill. My wife was cuddling our son on the bed. The wall of the house was taken out by the embankment, and the side wall, at the side of the wall that had collapsed. I did not understand what happened or the gravity of what had happened until next morning when I saw about the whole embankment had collapsed. The house was taken out in 3 places. Our neighbors had taken us in and given us shelter for a few days until we got other accommodation. After high school, I went into engineering and obtained my diploma in mechanical engineering. I joined the Cooperative Milk Supply Society in Ooty and then HPF. HPF was one of the 6 manufacturing units of photo films in the world. K. Kamaraj, the then Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, was responsible for having this manufacturing unit allotted to the Nilgiris. The French collaborators gave us 1930s technology, which worked well for the years 1967 to about the year 2004 or so. And then production in the old unit stopped entirely. The polyester unit of HPF continued for a few more years. However, technology changed and digital films were being used extensively, and HPF was forced to wind up. Working at HPF was both satisfying and frustrating. I learned much and also taught much. I learned more about the types of personalities we were dealing with. Some compassionate and helpful, others cheaters and sneakers, etc. We shared joys, sorrows, and witnessed tragic events. I married Hyacinth in July 1976, and we have our son Luke, who studied in KV Indonagar and for +1 and +2 at SJC. He joined St. John's Medical College in 1994 and is presently a consultant psychiatrist in the NHS Oxford. His wife Joyce is a consultant in genetics, also in NHS Oxford. While we are parents, we are not grandparents. I lost my dad in 1991, my elder brother in 2022, and my mother at age 104 and 7 months in December 2023.